I was so all right. So the reason why I bring that up, lost my shape trying to act casual. When you One of the ways we maintain our shape is through movement and muscular action. Think about when you're lying in bed, snuggling perfectly under the covers, and you kind of, if you don't, you're laying there and you really, really don't know where your body is all the way, right? Until you like move your toe and put it against the covers, or you roll over a bit, or you move just a bit. That mind without reference actually loses its shape. And you ever noticed when you're really, really fatigued and your mind gets more crabby? It's kind of because like when something that like you bump into something, it hurts worse. It's kind of a shock to you because you kind of lost your shape, right? Because how about your have you think about this like when someone's talking to you, if you were to turn sideways and then try to turn your head, right, you would not be able to listen as well. Be a hard position to listen. You'd end up listening more with your head, right, and with your eyes. So the last few weeks I've been teaching about focus, right? About one of the limbs of yoga, dharana, right? So, and trying to tell you that what does it mean to have your mind and body and consciousness come into focus? So a lot of times we make little kids sit up straight and tall and with their hands folded to listen better, right? When they're in school, because we're trying to train them, right? And how you represent why sitting up in your chair with both feet on the ground and not lying down helps your focus is interesting. You could say, well, your body needs to be alert so your mind can focus. We tend to have an overly mentalized idea of what focus is, right? It tends to be like it's kind of concentration, right? And it's like, well, you could say that. You could say right now I'm sitting with my hands folded, like I'm sitting up straight and tall. I'm trying to have my hands folded here, right? Could say that that's just to set the conditions for my mind. But if you think back, if you would have to listen the whole day sitting sideways in school, not only would your head get tired, your neck get tired, I don't think you'd learn as well. That in fact, it's not just you're setting the conditions for your mind to concentrate and listen. Your consciousness is more online when you're sitting and facing the speaker. It's not just your mind, right? And so if we can delineate between mental focus and mental concentration and what it is to have more focus with your whole consciousness, that's different, right? And that's for me and all the work I do, that's a really important distinction is between consciousness and what it is to mentally concentrate. So now, what does the lyrical name that tune have to do with anything, right? Well, how do you keep your shape to keep your focus? Right? We tend to furrow our brows when we're trying to mentally concentrate, like, I can just narrow the world down enough, right? Then I can just listen and focus on what's coming at me. And what if the study of asana is using movement and shape and muscular action, not just to set the conditions for your mind to listen, but as an essential part of what it is to focus? So sit up straight and tall. So now we're going to try to like use some body sensation at first in order to engage muscles in a more full and engage action and movement in a more full and encompassing sense of focus. We have to get quieter. We have to like soften literally the brain. Have you figured out how to soften your brain, by the way? I think you have. You're just not used to thinking about it. You know what bums me out is when sometimes I clench my jaw at night when I'm sleeping. I'm thinking because you're grinding on something you're worried about or who knows what, right? I don't know if any of you are teeth grinders or whatever. Of course you are, right? A lot of us are. What a bummer, man. Your mental content is making it all the way into your sleep, right? Like what the hell? Right? Somehow you're gaining reference on the hardship of your life by grinding your teeth, using a muscular action and gripping your jaw. So this idea of as a precondition of letting be what is, instead of trying to grind it into something like your mind's going to want to do, right? A precondition of focus is to get the quiet part of you engaged in your focus, not just your furrowed brow. So in the center of class, and from this foundation of awareness, movement starts to add shape. But you can see this even in the centering, right? So sit up straight and tall. Already you're starting to activate, right? But I want you to take time to pay attention to your exhale, right? Like watch the release. Let there be an allowing as an essential part of your focus. What if your focus isn't the furrowed brow? There's an allowing component to good listening. I think one of the best things we can all do is learn how to listen with our whole bodies, right? And it's going to take your mind, your mind to quiet, but your brain to receive. It's going to have to soften. So we're going to tell you in centering, release the skin on your forehead. So as you're paying attention to your exhale, something's dropping. Things are like surrendering down on exhalation. And then as part of that, I want you to soften your organs of perception. We're trying to get the mind to ungrip from its judgment, right? So you're softening around the forehead, letting the skin on the forehead drop towards the eye, towards the eyebrows, softening around your temples. So we're trying to get those eyes that take in so much information and are looking for threat, right? Want the eyes to soften. Yogis will even tell you that you want to release them slightly so they go underneath your cheekbones. That if you know what that might feel like, let that happen. Right? Soften the jaw, the inside of the mouth. Notice all of these, like especially the inside of the mouth, keep the tongue in the lower palate. All these sensations when the mind ungrips like this from the organs of perception are kind of like what you feel as you really have a relieving exhale. Right? So being able to juxtapose softening the organs of perception with your exhalation is actually a life skill I want you to continue to improve. Right? So like that's part, their sensations are similar. So now asana as a limb. So this isn't necessarily being focused, but asana as a limb takes this energy and is going to bring it into movement. It takes the quiet part of you, right? And if you think about this, including this part of you, not of your personality, but of your experience, think about it would help your focus. It would be part of your grounding and your shape. Right. So now start to feel your sitting bones. We're going to add the body. We're going to add the sitting bones and the presence of that you experience in your feet. Your feet were already on the ground or on your foot pedals. So you're not doing anything. You're becoming aware of something to your mind. Your brain was always taking in this information. Right. But now we're going to have you exert a little bit. So there's a slight bit of muscular action trying to clarify your shape. So it's not lost in the ambiguity of mental awareness, right? So hit down through your sitting bones and lift your chest. As you do, feel length from your pubis bone to your sternum, but do that as a means to become aware of your back body, because they're actually supposed to be in balance. Front and back body are supposed to be grounded in an asana. This awareness is hard for the mind to sustain. So if you extend from your inner groin to your inner knee and down through your inner heel, you create the foundation for the lift of the chest, the awareness of being able to feel the front and the back body. Balance your head over your neck. Notice you kind of want to inhale. Here comes the spark of life, the spark of action. Remember, we talked the last couple of weeks about the first step into effort, into using your muscular body, needs to be nonviolent. And it takes practice to move in the first exertion, to be part of the universe, your muscles in service of something. For those of you that can and stay on balance, bring your hands into prayer. Only if you don't collapse everything. So now here comes more exertion. If your hands are on your thighs, great. If they're on your chest, great, but you can push down. So start the activation of the bones in your hands. So push to the heel of your hands. Right? Note it, keep the hands at the midline. You have a midline. Right? There's a space between your sitting bones that rises up through the chest. So as you lift your chest and activate your muscles to lift your chest, you're doing it from this unknown part. As you extend from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel, you're supporting the midline. You're giving order to your future actions in asana, future movement. So I just realized that I wasn't extending and lengthening all my fingers when my hands are in prayer. So I'm doing that. Letting my hands become a mirror for my entire body. I'm putting my muscular action in service of the whole. All this awareness, you probably clenched the inside of your mouth. Probably slightly dropped the lift in your chest. Repose. You get to begin again. You get to start over all the time. You get to have a better day. Always. Let go of your day. Prepare your mind to do yoga. Good, and then release. Put your hands down to your thighs, palms up. Sternum up toward your chin, chin down over your sternum. Remember, this is a clarifying shape, right? As you lift your sternum and engage your rib cage, drop your chin in humility. Let your brain be subservient to the energy coming up through your chest. You feel your outline around your ribs better. Shape. Breathe into the shape. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So one of the quintessential learning visions that I have is I think about a middle school kid becoming aware of social space in a way that no longer has innocence, right? That all of a sudden is worried if his or her pants are right or shoes are right or blah, 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 blah. And that kid's walking down the hall, they've lost their shape. It's an essential part of growing up, where all of a sudden awareness of other people's judgments is part of losing your shape. That's why I love the David Byrne song, right? Lost my shape, because that kid tries to walk down the hall and is way uptight about it, but they're trying to look casual. They're trying to look cool, right? We all know we all still have versions of that middle school person walking down, and it's how you lose your shape, right? It's so funny. Oh, what a great thing parents say. Don't worry about what your friends think, as if it were that easy, right? You might be able to help them walk down the hall differently. That's asana. All right. All right. So let's start the light, get that sense of lightness. And so, but I want you to pay attention to this idea of one of the ways we're creating the lightness. So I'm lifting up on my chair a little bit, and I'm bouncing, and I'm adding some rhythm, right? So one of the things that people lose, one of the things that when they lose connection, right? So I'm just using my body to create some lightness, right? So I'm just trying to, right? Just trying to get it more open, right? So I'm going to lift up and let my low back hang in traction. I say this all the time, right? I mean, like, we want space in your low back. I've been trying to tell you that your low back, especially if you sit a lot, has actually magic space in it. It's one of the places that people lose their shape, right? Is because they lose the spaces in their low back. It's probably why sitting's the new smoking, right? Everyone's getting low back problems and the shoulders are dropping. It's because they've lost their shape. They've lost sensation in their low back, right? Sitting dulls the relationship between your low spine and your legs. So you're moving around trying to go, wait, I'm going to use movement and muscular action to create the changes that allow me to remember what it is to live in my low back, right? And then now as you lean forward, press from your inner groin, lengthen from your inner groin to your inner knee down to your inner heel. So now we're adding stuff. It's like, wait, I'm going to move, lengthen, lift my chest, and push down, and then rise up. What the hell? I can do. Oh, and if I want to make it really complicated for my mind, because I want to overwhelm your mind now. So now come forward, lift your chest, lengthen your back, hit down with your sitting bones, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee, right? Now be more aware of your back body when you do it, and lengthen the sides of your neck. Oh my God, I'm losing my shape because there's too many things going on. He's just using words. The great thing is that you don't have to know, your mind doesn't have to know everything if your body practices certain movements. If the muscle becomes memory, right? If I do a whole bunch of things, and then I'm going to collapse. And notice when you collapse, I don't know about you, but I can't exert through my legs as well, right? I'm losing my shape, right? Lift up again, come forward, hit down through your heels and hit down through your feet, which I can't physically do, and spring your spine up, right? And I'm having one hand on my foot pedal, one hand on my wheel. So now I'm going to switch hands. I'm going to do it the other way. Remember, I'm a good freaking yogi, right? I know how to do both sides all the time, right? Both sides. So I'm gonna go back and forth. I'm switching. I forgot to close my door behind me. You guys got more green coming behind my head, right? Switching, whoo, switch, come forward, switch. Oh, you know what? You know what's crazy about and wonderful about rhythm? You have to become part of something. You thought about like what it is to dance, right? So then come back. So I'm gonna do a couple more times, right? So the thing about dancing, right, is that someone that isn't able to dance very well isn't just not being able to be coordinated in movement. They're not able to feel what's coming from the outside and move it back into them and through them. They're not able to become part of the music, right? And so, and coordinating their muscular actions in a way that is part of the music, not just part of their mind's control. Isn't it when dancing, have you ever noticed that if you become super aware of what you're gonna do next in your dance move, you suck, right? You can't dance anymore. So what if in that example, you have a super important secret, right? Mental energy and being part of something don't go together. Damn. All this from David Byrne. Indeed. Right? So now I'm still going to get bigger again. I'm going to take my legs wide, right? Because I just want to take up space a little bit, right? And I'm using movement in my body in different positions to take up space. Oh, I'm tight today. Ooh. I noticed this in my practice this morning, that my hips and my groins are more tight. So I'm taking some time here. So I don't have my camera down enough. But so what I'm doing here for a second, because the connection between when I sit so much, the connection between my legs and my legs and my spine needs to wake up. It needs to have space. Otherwise I collapse, right? So I'm just doing some stuff to get this movement here, right? So notice I'm kind of doing it. I start doing it in rhythm. So here's me just stretching. That'd be me throwing away the muscular action. Here's me adding rhythm. So I'm pushing on each knee, the back of each hand, and I'm coordinating the lift in my chest. And then release. So I'm trying to regain a clarified sense of shape by using rhythm. Right? Now I could just throw this away again. So I'm good at throwing things away. This is like it's how I live my life most of the time. Well, I can hardly do it anymore, but like I can just kind of pretend there's nothing going on here. Or I can practice the coordination of an expansion of my change of position. So remember, I can't move my legs alone. So I'm creating the movement without the muscular action. So I'm pushing out using the leverage to lift my chest. And as I coordinate that, I'm now going to try to push down through my hips. So I'm using the change of position in my spine and the change of gravity to help me feel muscular action that I can't do, coming forward and hitting down through my hips. Try it again. Nothing is simple. Everything is simple. I hate that. So I'm going to change gravity again. Go off to one side. Because I'm regaining my shape through movement. So Renee, I'm watching you from a distance. As you lean one direction, are you pushing through the opposite sitting bone? Right? That'd be for everybody, right? Because I want the shape of my whole body. So I'm leaning this way, but making sure I'm paying attention on the back side, right? Because I'm trying to get space in a sense of stretch to help me find my shape again, not just to feel my muscles, and then bring your legs back together. So what I wanted to share today was a line that's hard to understand. Extension requires attention. This is from the dude, B.K. Sangar. Extension requires attention. Expansion is consciousness. Right? Damn. So if I focus my mind, okay, take your arm off to the side. I'm going to extend it towards those trees over there. That requires my attention. Then I'm actually looking at that tree. I'm going to point to it. So I'm going to point to that tree. Pick a point in your house, right? Point to it. That's your mental attention. So, Gabe, point with your shoulder, right? You don't have to lift your arm. Can't lift your arm. Doesn't matter about the freaking arm, right? It matters if you're pointing, right? So I'm going to go this way. I'm going to point, right? I'm going to point over at something at the wall over there. That requires attention when I go in one direction and narrow my consciousness in one direction. And do it on the other side, right? And my mind feels like it's in control because it's got attention. It's kind of what I need to do when I'm watching math problems done on the blackboard, right? That's a good kind of attention, right? All right. But now, so now when you hit down, so there's another line I've told you many times, hit down through your sitting bones and lift your chest. To learn how to extend in one direction in a vertical plane, right, is what you want to teach beginners more. So hit down through your sitting bones and lift your chest. Right, so you start the student's mind. It's not just beginners, but any student's mind in a vertical plane, because that's what the mind wants. The mind wants it simple, right? What's harder to do is now hit down through your sitting bones, lift your chest, and broaden the space between your shoulder blades. So we're activating muscular action, but now we're watching the vertical plane. I'm looking at you, Elaine. I want you to broaden between your shoulder blades. I can see you're not quite doing it. There you go, right? Okay, so hit down and go this way between your shoulder blades. And then release and lose your shape. Right? So now engage again. Regain your shape. Lift your chest. Sit down through your sitting bones. Inhale. And on this next exhalation, don't lose your shape, but keep your shape because you can. Good. And on your next inhalation, hit down through your sitting bones, lift your chest, and broaden between your shoulder blades. Again, we're activating muscular action in order to show you more dimension in the experience. And then release. Lose your shape. Right? I like the sensation of going from lost shape into clarified shape. That's part of why I practice asana. Again, I'm doing it again, right? Activating, not broadening. So here we have a little example of, I've taught this to you before, where vertical extension intersects horizontal extension, right? So as you hit down through your sitting bones, extend from the inner groin to the inner knee down to the inner heel. We're on a vertical plane, right? And I'm telling you to do that while broadening, extending this way between your shoulder blades. and then release. When you add to the vertical plane, right? Does anyone feel a difference when you try to broaden between the shoulder blades? Thumbs up if you can feel the difference. That's what he's calling consciousness, right? That the expansion is the consciousness, not the exertion brought about by attention, right? And it takes a mind a brain to soften, to feel the result and the consequence of vertical and horizontal attention or extension meeting. And this is happening all the time in the yoga pose. Aren't you glad you don't have to know all this stuff? Right? You just get to do it with your muscles. And if your mind's awake to receive, so now we're going to do dog pose. And you're going to watch how these instructions have this simple truth all over them. Lean forward. You want to do it on your legs, right? You can do it on your legs, right? Which would be, you know, like this. I'm going to lean forward, put my hands on the desk in front of me, right? And so I'm going to spread my palms, not just push in one direction. Already by having you spread your palms and fingers, you're going horizontally, right? And you push, and then I want you to push down, right? And if you're doing it with your hands on your legs, your wrists go into your knees, right? I want you to push and expand with your hands, but pull back the upper arm towards your face. Notice that's going to engage your tricep. You didn't have to, if I told you to just engage your tricep, without this other more robust instruction, you wouldn't have been able to do it as well, right? But if you go and you expand, you press down on the table, broaden your palm, lengthen the upper arm, the inner upper arm towards the face, the tricep engages. And can you feel your chest lifts better? Now, broaden between your shoulder blades. What the hell, Chuck? Everything's getting set up here. Yeah, the asana already happened, right? So as you're right, so now we're just staying with right now with the upper body here, right? So you're pushing in one direction, you're broadening the horizontal extension, you're pulling in a vertical line up your arm, right? And all of a sudden you can lift your chest better and broaden the space between your shoulders, which is another horizontal expansion, right? And that was happening the whole time, whether or not your muscles came into service of it, and then release. So here's the crazy thing, right? Do the same pose without any of the muscular action. But now you have the imprint of it, right? You can kind of feel what you just did. So this isn't as easy to do, pretend you don't know what you know. But so when you just don't do it with any of the muscular action, it's still happening. You're just not putting your muscles in service of it. It's already happened. The prana's already moving in every direction. It's whether you teach your body to be one of the part of your attention, part of your focus. So now do the pose. Go from just sitting in the position to actually doing it on the inside. Start to engage your hands down, lengthen. Open the palms, pull the bicep back up towards the face. Notice it engages your tricep. Notice it makes you want to lift your chest. Now, feel the center of your chest, right? Broaden between the shoulder blades. Oh my God, you mean there's that I can feel each sitting bone now too? Yes, but don't just feel each sitting bone and spread them. Feel the space between the sitting bones, connected to the space expanding horizontally, extending between your shoulder blades. Keep the vertical plane on your arms. Now press down through your heels. What? Does it have to be this complicated? No. And then release. That's why you practice asana. You let the muscles gain the wisdom. You let the repetition, your mind doesn't have to know everything. All these things were already happening. So now with that much focus, you notice how that was kind of, you got in, you see what I mean when I say when we got that focus, it's like going into a small room. right? And now I'm moving around again to remember that I'm actually in a big room, even though my mental focus went into a small room, right? The room's actually big. Oh yeah, that's the joy part, right? If yoga makes you too serious, start again, right? Try it again. All right. All this in dog pose, I just want to have it be simple. Well, here's the good news. Go practice on your own and let it be simple. I'm not here to let it be simple. I'm here to show you the wonder of what's going on, right? I'm opening a door for you and you get to walk through it. And walking through it doesn't mean practicing with this much awareness in the mind. Walking through it means moving your body so you don't lose your shape. Putting muscular action, not just in service of accomplishment, but in terms of having shape. Breathe. So I'm in the position. I'm not going to work so hard at it this time. I'm going to remember all the things that I've worked on. I'm going to visit with awareness, my mental awareness, all the different parts of my body. Go through the instructions. Don't do them as hard physically. And now breathe. Let your breath touch the asana from inside to out. You're not doing more yoga if you're straining more with your muscles. You're not doing more yoga if you don't strain with your muscles. Damn it. How come it can't be one way or the other? And then come on back. Because that your mind wants the clarity of binary or black and white. I'm talking to another person right now. That's about your mind's weakness, not your body's. All right. So let's go wide again. So I want the space happening in my low back. So I'm not even going to lift all the way up. I'm lifting up. I'm just getting the space in my low back, right? Because I want that to be part of my pose. And I hope you're beginning to sense that when you get space in your low back, the doorways to your legs open up. All right. That when now collapse back into your low back. Notice you can't feel your legs as much. They're different. They don't have shape. They don't have texture. Right? Lift up again. Wait, part of the doorway was to keep shape in my low back. Yeah, that's why I teach it so much. All right, take your legs wide. Ooh, there's my tight groin today. Ooh, so I have to work through it, kind of bounce around. When your body resists, don't fight through it. There's no winning with your body, by the way. It's the only body you ever get to have. So don't push through its resistance. Don't be violent. Let it have its voice and then figure out how to become part of it. So I want you to lean over. And so now if I lean over, and now if the instruction were just to extend through the top of your head, which would be a good instruction, right? I'd want you to go the opposite way through your sitting bones, right? So do that. And then release. Now this time, I want you to lean this way, extend, but now broaden the space between the shoulders. And notice the change in sensation. Breathe. And then release. Remember, expansion in every direction, because expansion is in every direction, is consciousness. Now I'm going over the other way. At first, I'm just like letting my body was like I was a little shocking for it. So I'm backing out of it and coming in with more grace. All right, and now I'm extending first. I'm extending my spine, hitting down through my sitting bones, going beyond the top of my head, breathing, and then back, Now this time I'm going to go and follow the vertical plane again, but I'm going to horizontally extend between my shoulder blades. And then you figure out where else you can horizontally extend. So I go up, I open. First I extend vertically. Now I extend horizontally. As I extend horizontally, I try to feel my legs more. Good, and then release. So I talked to someone about pointing with your diaphragm. This is part of where that's happening. So here, I'm going to go to the first side again. And notice when I just vertically extend, right? And I'm finding I got to tuck this shoulder blade under more on my body to get it to vertically extend. So I don't know about your body. It's a good thing to do anyway, right? But when I just stay in this plane, it's one thing, and there's limited hope for me there. I'd have to use my will really hard to feel my legs. Which you can, but it'll be violent, right? So now I'm doing it again. I'm vertically extending through my spine, but now I'm going to horizontally extend. Open my rib cage as a means to feel my legs. And once I feel the wholeness of expansion, so I'm following the expansion of the intersection of vertical and horizontal to feel whole. Good, and then release. So what I'm trying to get you to feel is that when you vertical extend, the world's smaller, you have more control over it. When you add horizontal extension, your awareness can follow an expansion. So now I'm going this way. I'm making sure my rib cage stays alert, because that means I'm going to be horizontally extending, right? And so now I want to broaden between my shoulder blades, broaden between my sitting bone, as a way to feel my legs. Good, and then release. All right. Take a couple of breaths. Because different poses, different standing poses, are gonna either extend the horizontal plane or try to fight back into the vertical plane, right? So go over to the first side. We've done this a lot, right? So you're over this way, right? One pose goes like this. Makes sense, right? So the expansion between the shoulder blades is followed by the arm, right? Now, what I want you to do is not just expand vertically here or horizontally here. I want you to expand and broaden across your sacrum too. And let, when you broaden across your sacrum, affect your arm. And then when you get that expansion, redo the vertical. Breathe. If you want to look up, look up. I just heard Cat Stevens in my head, if you know that song. If you want to be free, be free. All right. And come back to center. Anyone know that song, the Cat Stevens song?
Harold and Maude.
Yeah.
Great movie.
Oh, it's a great movie. Harold and Maude, that'd be a movie right? So now I'm getting all this extra prep. This side's harder for me, so I'm getting help, putting my hand on my thigh, getting help for this vertical extension this way, right? Because I know I'm going to struggle because I know the sides of my body, right? So now I'm going to broaden, open my rib cage, broaden it, and then take my arm up and go, oh, that's why the arm goes up here, right? And then broaden across my sacrum too, to feel my legs. Because it's the expansion And as I work my arm, the muscles of my arm better, tricep into the bone, bicep lengthening, shoulder blade working on right through here, right? Then the expansion sensation in my whole body gets better. And then come on down. So I could have just taken my arm up and just done it, or I could pay attention to when my muscles work well in service of the bones, the expansion sensation is deeper. Go this way. So I'm popping around here because I don't want to get the room too small. My mind is wanting to concentrate too much, right? And I want my body to concentrate. I want my mind to receive what's happening in my body. So the shoulder blade's going under, I'm going up as part of the expansion across, the horizontal extension across the center of my chest, between the back shoulder blades, between the sacrum. So Elaine's already ahead of me, right? And my arm's straight up, it's not over my head yet. That's a harder pose. What you're doing, Elaine's harder, right? Doesn't know I'm talking to her. Good, and then come on back. Back into center. Be happy in center. Make it alive. So I'm bouncing here again because I want to be happy in the center, because my concentration tends to take my joy away. Right? My mental concentration tends to take my joy away. Joy away in the process. I might feel better, feel like a sense of accomplishment after I'm done. Right? So now we're going to go this way again. Oh, this makes sense, this expansion. And then the ask is to bring the upper arm back into the midline. This is what Elaine was just doing. Right? So this all of a sudden goes from this expansion, keep this expansion, but sink the arm back into the midline again and re-engage everything. Now, how are you going to get to your legs? Horizontally extend across your sacrum, horizontally extend between the shoulder blades, extend down through the legs. Let the expansion energy, the unity of expansion, show you where your legs are. So you're going to go the other way. Remember, we've done the vertical plane, done this plane. We're opening, following the expansion, the horizontal expansion, extension, redoing the vertical extension to feel my whole body, to feel my legs, following the expansion of consciousness and the sense of connection, and then over your head. So you're going from easy expansion to back to the midline, but still expanding, and then pointing down each leg by broadening across the sacrum. Good, and then release. Oh no, is he going to do one more? Yes. What I'm going to add now, we're going to go faster, over, up, over. When I force back into the midline and I open, now feel the whole room. Be in the whole room. As you're horizontally, vertically, be in the whole room. Good, and then come on back. So in order to feel the whole room in a complicated pose, you have to surrender. You don't get to do anything. Can't feel the whole room by doing something. You feel the whole room by allowing it. Good, and then come on back to center. Bring your legs back together. Come back towards something, for God's sakes. Sit with your legs together. That was a long time to have your legs apart. So how are you going to heal that? So this is the kind of thing you want to do when you practice on your own. So after having your legs that apart for that long, right? Even if it doesn't feel like, oh, I got it. It didn't feel like a strain. It was a strain, right? Bring your femur bones back together, right? Femur bones back together. So I'm just pushing them in here because I want the riverbanks of the vertical plane to become nourishing, to gain current. Because my riverbanks just went this way, right? Now I want the riverbanks to come back through me directly. So I'm changing the alignment of my femur bones. So once you do that, then hit down through your sitting bones, extend from your inner groin to your inner knee down through your inner heel, lift your chest, and then release and let lose your shape again. And then bring it back into shape and extend. And let this be don't work so hard, let it be nourishing to have the river through the riverbanks. Breathe. Good, and then release. So this core channel, despite all the outward action, needs to be the main receiver of Shavasana, right? Or you need to let the core channel exhale in Shavasana. So again, I'm finding the core channel by doing this. Lifting my chest. Now this time I included my head. I'm feeling the space between my shoulder blades and my ears. Feeling my front and back body, feeling each sitting bone, each foot on the floor, on the foot pedal. Preparing for symmetry to be part of Shavasana. And then release. And then find a position that's good for you to receive. So for me, that meant jumping out a little bit, leaning back into my chair, touching my fingertips together. But I really want you to receive your chair, right? So what do you have to do? What part of you, below the muscular action of what you did, what part of you needs to receive support? Open it, whatever part that is. Open it. And then let in the support of your chair. Balance your head over your neck. Soften. Last week we talked after class about how do you get the head into the pose? Well, start feeling even your scalp and around the temples, the jaw, the inside of your mouth. Right? Feel each side of your neck. Let the chair holding you up support the lightness of having to feel each side of your neck, your jaw loosening. Soften the inside of the mouth. Let it receive the core channel. The hum of your spine. Your spine is always humming. Right? It's whether your mind receives it. We lose our shape because we're not hearing the hum of our spine. Our actions are fatiguing because they don't come as congruently out of the hum of our spine. Shavasana is trying to nourish the hum of your spine by opening your emptiness. So the inside of your ankles and your knees and your hips. Let your joints sigh. Your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists, even the knuckles on your fingers. Let them sigh. Inside of your mouth is soft from the skin, but even let go of your teeth. Your teeth are bones. Bone emerging right out of skin. That's what your mouth is. Let them go. Notice your breath. Don't deepen it. In Shavasana, your breath should be shallow, but it's doing a lot of nourishing because you're supported. So in Shavasana, don't have too much attention on your breath. As you come back to movement, now start to gradually increase your breath, the inhalation, slightly lengthen the exhalation, but the expansion of quantity has to do with movement. And the problem is it doesn't take a lot of breath to nourish the inner part of your being. It takes awareness. Don't worry if you can't take deep breaths. Improve the quality. So slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. In this place of returning to movement, thank your body. It gives you shape. But your shape precedes your control. Your muscles should go in service of it all. When you're ready, open your eyes slowly. Closing. Open them again and receive the light. It's part of why I love the name of that Talking Heads album. Remain in the light. You don't have to find the light. You have to learn to remain in it. Your mind's not going to want to remain in the light. It looks for meaning in shadows. That's really cool. But your body remains in the light. All right. Hands together. Namaste. The spirit in me bows the spirit in you.